You can reply to me.
No, sir. No, sir.
No, you cannot send a direct message to me.
No, sir.
Okay, let me just ask the host.
Sir, no, we can.
You can, okay, correct. All of you can?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Perfect. So, yes, Omar, today's Viva, you didn't get the message. You must have received a message, a reminder message, plus I also announced in the last class. So I'll be taking a Viva on endocrine system. It wasn't present, okay, but you must have received the message from Nishkarsh or physics Viva you received. Okay. Everyone received the message?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Umar, others have received. I think you should talk to Nishkarsh why I'm not getting the messages, if that is the case. But anyways, it will just be like the last time. So I'll be asking questions and you all can answer me, even if I'm not asking that question to you. Is it clear? Okay, so let's begin without wasting time. So should I start alphabetically or randomly?
Not alphabetically, sir.
Let me start randomly. Okay, so I'll start with Reba. Reba, can you hear me? See, anyways, you have to answer my questions, okay? So don't worry.
I'd be last if it was alphabetically, so I support
Yes,
that.
yes. Okay, so so I'll be asking questions to Reba. So only Reba will speak. Others can like write the answers, okay? And if that is an explanatory question, then you can just write the major points, what things I'm asking, okay? Okay, so Reba, tell me, in endocrine system, what do we mean by erythropoiesis and which hormone is important for it? Reba, erythropoiesis and which hormone is responsible? What is erythropoiesis? The term itself defines it.
It produces red blood cells.
It produces, erythropoiesis is the synthesis of red blood cells.
Red blood cells.
Okay. And which hormone regulates it?
Erythropoietin.
Erythropoietin. Okay, good. Okay, so let me. So you will only get, so the trick is that people who are writing it will only get time till the actual responder answers for that question, okay? But I'm noting it down. Okay, Reba.
Yes, sir.
Name any 3 hormones which are secreted by the anterior pituitary. You just have to name them. The function is not required.
FSH.
Sorry?
FSH.
Yeah, but you have to give the full name at least.
Follicle stimulating hormone.
Okay.
And adrenocortical corticotropic hormone,
Okay.
and LH. LH is a luteinizing hormone.
Okay. Which gland secretes calcitonin, and what does calcitonin do?
Thyroid gland secretes calcitonin, and it decreases the plasma calcium concentration in blood.
How? Like when you ask, yeah. Can
It
you
is
just elaborate
produced
how
by
it does that?
it is produced by thyroid gland in response to high calcium levels in blood, and that's why it decreases the plasma calcium concentration.
Okay. So I'll give you a statement, okay? I'll just read a statement. You have to tell me whether that statement is true or false. Okay. And if it is true, then of course it's true. And if it is false, you have to tell me the right statement instead.
Okay.
Okay. So the statement is, the gastrointestinal tract and the kidney also produce hormones and act as an endocrine gland. True or false?
So can you repeat?
The gastrointestinal tract and the kidneys also produce hormones and act as an endocrine gland.
True.
True. Okay. So this is your answer. Fine. Okay. Now this is a little elaborative question. Which class of hormone, you have to just tell me the signaling mechanism of any one class of hormone. Anyone. So I'm not asking you specifically. You have to tell me one class of hormone and how it acts in the cell. So it's up to you, whichever class you want to choose. Do you understand the question?
Any hormone?
Yeah, any class of hormone, not even one hormone specifically, any class, and you have to tell me how it functions inside a cell. Just the mechanism. Okay.
Oxytocin, it is responsible for maturation. And should I say how it is used?
Yeah, so not the function,
the
it's
mother like to withstand and delivery pain, and it makes it easier.
yeah, but it's still the function. I'm asking mechanism. How does that function, like how's that function takes place inside the cell? How does the hormone do that? If you are taking oxytocin as an example, what class of hormone it is?
It is secreted from pituitary gland. Makes the urine contractions.
See, all of this is function. I'm asking mechanism. So in boards, you will be asked two things: function of hormone and mechanism of hormones. So I taught you mechanism as well, right? Different classes, there were distinctly two different types of hormones that functions in a different way through different mechanism
Positive or
inside the
negative feedback, that one.
cell. No, that's a feedback. Okay. So read about this a bit. Okay, Reba. Hello,
Yes, sir.
am I audible? Yes. Okay. Okay, Reba. Last question. Uh, name the hormone which is commercially used in pregnancy kits.
What, sir?
The hormone which is commercially utilized in the pregnancy kits. Do you remember that?
Gonadotropin releasing hormone.
Okay.
Sir, can you repeat the question once again?
Yeah, the question was which hormone is commercially utilized or used in pregnancy kits to ensure that there's pregnancy. I told you that there's one hormone which, if present, then 100% there is pregnancy. Okay, so I think Reba has given her answer. You all can write. Okay, fine. Thank you, Reba. You can continue to give me answers, okay? And I'll be asking others the question. So I'll go to Mariam now. Mariam, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Mariam, the question is, it's a bit of conceptual question. So first is, what is the major difference between hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism? Do you remember that? Any 2 points on the, you can just tell me 2 points, or if it's one major point, you can tell me 1 point.
In hypothyroidism, thyroid gland enlarges.
Mhm.
In hyperthyroidism,
What happens to the gland?
so I only remember hypothyroidism.
Okay, tell me hypothyroidism.
In there, the T3, T4 thyroid hormones are abnormally low. Abnormally low, and in this condition is known as hypothyroidism.
Okay, can you tell me what happens in hyper on that basis?
In hyper, it is abnormally high.
Okay. Okay, fine. Mariam, next question is, which gland do you know plays an important role in immune system development, and how? Yes.
The thymus gland.
Okay.
It plays a major role in the development of immune system or immunity by secretion of thymosin, which are very important and and it plays a major role in cell mediation.
Cell?
Sorry, I forgot the word. Cell something.
You mean cell mediated immunity?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, fine. Explain in brief, not in detail, why we call hypothalamus as the master regulator of endocrine system.
Because it is responsible for regulating the pituitary hormones, and pituitary hormones are pituitary is the gland which produces most of the hormones.
Okay. So what are these hormones from hypothalamus?
The hormones from hypothalamus are called either releasing hormones or inhibitory hormones, and these help in synthesis and secretion of pituitary hormones. Inhibitory hormones are those hormones which stops the secretion of pituitary hormones. Some examples of pituitary, some examples of hypothalamus hormones are TRH and
that is one example. You said some.
TRH and the growth hormone, growth GHRH, growth hormone releasing hormone, and prolactin, which is an inhibitory hormone.
Okay, perfect. Okay, tell me, I'll tell you a condition and you have to tell me which hormone is most likely affected because of which this condition arises. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So if I say cancers, most likely if there is a hormonal imbalance, which hormones do you think, hormone or hormones, could be found to be affected in cancer? So it is not a specific cancer of any gland. So if it is of the any endocrine gland, of course that will affect. But if it is just a tissue cancer somewhere in the body, but there is cancer, so which hormones do you think, if at all, can be affected? So you have to just use your logic. Any hormone you think will be affected in cancer
Growth
directly?
hormone?
Okay, that's it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Infertility. Infertility. If there is infertility, which hormone or hormones are most likely to be affected?
Progesterone.
Progesterone. That's it.
Yes, sir. Estrogen and progesterone.
Estrogen. You are adding estrogen to your answer. Okay. Which is, now this is the last question. So in the female primary sexual organ, which is ovaries, which region of the ovary is responsible or is more active in hormonal regulation and secretion? The cortex or the medulla?
The medulla.
In the structure of ovary, is the cortex more hormonally active part or the medulla?
The cortex.
The cortex. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mariam. You can continue to answer. Okay. Thanks. Let's go to Omar. Omar, you're there? Can you speak? Will you speak or will you write? You will just type, or can you orally speak? Okay, you'll speak. So please speak. You're writing that you will speak. Oh, nice. Good to hear your voice, Omar.
Sir, I didn't speak.
You just unmuted yourself. I was happy. Okay, so first question is, tell me the difference between acquired and innate immunity. We discussed a bit of immunity also. Or what you know about acquired immunity versus innate immunity. Just two differences if you can tell. Are you there, Homer? Acquired immunity versus innate immunity.
Sir,
Yes, come on. You know, I think you know the answer. So just be yourself and give the answer. Don't worry.
sir, acquired immunity is the resistance against infecting foreign substances.
So immunity is where you fight against the substances. Okay, but what is acquired versus innate immunity? These two words, acquired and innate.
You mean meaning of them?
Yeah, what is the difference between the two? There are two types of immunity, acquired and innate. So on what basis they are called acquired and innate, and what is the difference? See, the word also speaks for itself. Okay, so you can also say pass if you do not want to answer that question. Okay, now can you name one hormone which is important for the normal sleep cycle in the human? A hormone which is important for our sleep. So there are multiple answers. So you have to tell me one answer, one hormone which is important for sleep. Do you remember any of it? Were you present during the endocrine system, Homer, or you missed most of it? Hello? Okay, you were present. Yeah. So do you remember any hormone which is important for sleep? Okay. Omar,
Yes.
which gland is responsible, and you can also name the hormones, for sugar balance, glucose balance or regulation in the blood? The gland or the hormones? What regulates blood sugar level in short? Do you remember the gland or the hormones that regulate blood sugar?
Pancreas.
Yes. Okay. Pancreas. Do you remember the hormones?
Sir, I think
It's a very common
insulin.
hormone. Yes, right. So why are you not answering? If you know the answer, you have to answer, right?
Sir,
See, if you
I'm just guessing.
okay, so even if you're guessing, you should answer, right? In Vivas, you can score by answering. If you're not answering, then it's short, not adding to your points. Okay, insulin. So there's one more hormone. Do you know about it? Apart from insulin, that plays a role in glucose regulation in the blood.
Yes, sir, I know, but I forgot the name, sir.
Okay. Do you remember which hormone or hormones are known as fight, flight, or fright hormones, and why are they called so? The hormones which are known as fight, flight, or fright hormone, and why are they called so? Any idea? So there are few hormones which increase in our blood when we are afraid, or when we are like frightened, or you want to run away, and we call that,
Adrenaline.
yes, we call it adrenaline rush. Remember?
Yes.
Good. So don't hold back. Okay, give your answers. Can you tell me what is goiter, Umar? What is goiter, and which endocrine gland is affected in goiter? For all those who are answering directly to me, remember that you will also get marks for answering the questions which I'm not asking to you directly. So yes, Omar, goiter.
Sir, it is in the enlarged thyroid gland.
Yes. So enlarged thyroid gland. So thyroid gland is. So what happens in goiter? Any one symptom? The thyroid gland enlarges because of which?
Sir, you mean how the goiter looks in human body?
Yeah. So one symptom of it and why it happens. Any idea? What leads to goiter? So you said enlargement of thyroid gland. So it answers both my questions, that thyroid gland is affected. And why does goiter happens? Any reason for it? Any one reason? So there is one deficiency which they say. Remember? Deficiency of an element leads to goiter. Do you remember that element? It's called iodine. Remember?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes.
We need to have iodine in our diet, otherwise there'll be deficiency of goiter. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So Omar,
it will feel like there is a big basketball in our throat.
yeah, of course, it will get enlarged. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Omar, and I will encourage you.
Sir, next time please let me know when is the Viva.
Yes, right. So I was saying the same thing. I'll encourage you to get in touch with Nishkarsh and figure out why are you not getting these reminder messages. Okay, because everyone else got it, and I think you would have been better prepared if you were notified.
Yes, sir. Yes.
But you can still continue to answer like you were doing in the chat when I'm asking others. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, Aisha. Aisha, are you there? Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me, any hormone you know which plays an important role in our sleep-wake cycle apart from melatonin?
So can you repeat again?
A hormone which is important or plays a role in our sleep-wake cycle apart from melatonin. So if you can just, any other hormone which you think helps in our daily rhythm, in our sleep-wake cycle, in our circadian rhythm, in other words. Okay, I'll ask in other words. Any hormone which you think is responsible for our metabolism? BMR, the basal metabolic rate of our body.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Aisha.
Sir, can you repeat again? Actually,
I'm asking a hormone which you think is responsible for our metabolic activities, our basal metabolic rate. Mariam, you have to answer. Don't put a question mark in front of your answers. Yes, Aisha. Any hormone which you think plays a role in our metabolism?
Thyroid stimulating hormones.
Thyroid stimulating hormones.
Yeah.
Okay.
T3 and T4.
Okay. Is there any hormone which is only present in female but not present in male at all? Like not even in small quantities. So if I ask you one hormone which is a female exclusive hormone, what will you say? Estrogen will be your answer. Okay, so that's the best. So you think estrogen is the best answer?
Yeah.
Males do not have estrogen?
Yeah.
Okay. And apart from estrogen, any other hormone which is not at all present in males apart from estrogen? So estrogen was your answer. I registered it, but I'm just asking. Okay. Apart from progesterone? If you feel there is no other hormone, you have to say no, there is no other hormone. I'm just testing. So I got your answer.
I don't think so. There is another hormone.
Okay. I have others. Do you think any other hormone which is a female exclusive hormone? Okay, since everyone has written their answers, just to tell you, someone just told me, just now someone told me. Yes, right. I just asked you another question. Remember, I asked one of you, which is an hormone which confirms pregnancy. So if that confirms pregnancy.
Oh, sir. Yeah, that hormone is also there.
What is that hormone? Aisha, because I'm not given.
Human chorionic.
Yes. So
I'm
that
sorry,
will be a
sir. I
female
forgot
exclusive
about
hormone. Because even estrogen and progesterone are present in a little amounts in males. Estrogen specifically, not progesterone. So that's also right answer. Estrogen, progesterone are also correct, but HCG is also correct and the best shot. Okay. Aisha, tell me, what do parathyroid hormones do?
This hormones help us to maintain the
appropriate balance of calcium in the bloodstream.
Okay. Okay. Is that your complete answer? Anything else you want to add?
Absorption of calcium from food by the intestines, conservation of calcium by kidneys.
Okay. Is it complete now?
Yeah.
Okay. My next question to you is, I'll give you a statement and you have to tell me whether it's true or false. Okay. And then you have to justify it. Why your answer is that. Luteinizing hormones is present in males and plays an important function. This statement is true or false? Luteinizing hormone is present in males and plays an important function.
It's false.
It's false. And why? Justify your answer.
Sir, it's not present in males, it's present in females, right? It stimulates the corpus luteum to produce progesterone,
Okay.
which supports the early stage of pregnancy.
Okay. I'm asking about LH, luteinizing hormone. Okay. Rehab, you have to justify also if you think it's
So
that's your
it's
answer.
not present. You're asking that it's present in male, right? So it's not there. It's present in females.
Okay. Okay, since others are also typing in their answers. Cool. So I'll just tell you that LH is present in males. It's luteinizing hormone and it's secreted from pituitary. So both males and females have pituitary glands. So of course it's going to be present in males as well. Because what? See, both have pituitary, right? Males do not have ovaries, so ovarian hormones will not be present. So what will LH doing? Remember we discussed this and I told you that the function is not yet elaborately known, but we know that it helps, it affects, it works in males and triggers the production of male hormones, testosterone,
Yes.
and also estrogen, spermatogenesis. It helps in the formation of sperms. That is what we know, but not in detail. But yes, LH is present in males because males also have pituitary. Okay. Anyways.
I'm really sorry.
Okay, so there's one question, Aisha. First listen to the question and tell me with which hormone you can solve this problem. So the problem is there is a milkman who's finding this issue that the cow is not giving enough milk or not secreting enough milk. Okay. So first of all, which hormone do you think you can inject or administer to solve this issue?
BST when growth hormone.
Growth hormone.
No. Say FDA, right?
F what?
No. Nothing that does that mean. I know the name. It's not coming in. BST.
Are you talking about the BSA, bovine serum albumin?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but that's not correct answer. That's not at all an answer.
Uh,
It's a protein.
Seven,
BSA is a protein. It's not a hormone.
seven. Sorry,
So if you had a cow and that cow is not giving enough milk, but you need milk because you're a milk woman.
Oxytocin.
Oxytocin. You will use oxytocin. Okay. And how do you think oxytocin will solve the problem if your answer is oxytocin?
It will help in releasing the milk.
It helps in releasing. I heard the releasing. What it helps in releasing?
Milk.
Milk. Okay. Okay.
Seven, and I'm still not sure about my answer. I guess it's correct.
You can give the answer and you have to. So
it's correct. So can you please say whether it's correct or not?
you have to tell me that you have submitted the answer. So that's if
Okay,
that's your
fine.
answer.
I have submitted it.
Okay, so oxytocin is correct, but how it will solve the problem, that answer could have been better. But yes, it's oxytocin. And I'll mark you on that. Okay. So the last question is, can you name hormones secreted from the gastrointestinal tract? Any two hormones that secreted from gastrointestinal tract, GIT. Aisha. Is not a hormone.
No, sir. Can you repeat it again, please?
Two hormones secreted by GIT, not from any endocrinal gland that we studied, but from the gut, stomach, intestines.
Gastrin.
Okay, that's one.
I guess. GIP.
Sorry, GIP.
Yeah, I think so. I have it.
What is GIP?
Gastric inhibitor. I guess it's correct.
If you have to first tell me clearly, what do you mean? GIP is
gastric inhibitor peptide.
Okay, yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aisha.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sorry for those silly answers.
It's fine, it's fine. You will give silly answers because you're preparing. If you'll not give silly answers to me, you will give it in the entrances. So better you give it to me.
Okay.
Yes, so next we'll go to Rehab. Rehab, can you speak? Are you there, Rehab?
Sir, I'll answer.
What? I could not understand. Rehab. Am I audible to you? Okay, you'll answer in chat. Is there any issues with your microphone? Because some of the questions you have to explain a bit. And the chances for you to get good marks will be when you're speaking. Are you sure you will write it through the chat? Okay. So can you tell me what is the major difference between a peptide hormone and a steroid hormone? And since Rehab is also typing in the answers. You all also can type in the answers. One major difference between a peptide hormone and a steroid hormone. Rehab, I'm waiting for your answer. Just write points. Don't write the complete sentence or paragraph. I'll understand. Others also can type in. Yes, okay. Abhinav, I'm asking what is the difference between these two hormones? Not what is the difference between a steroid and a protein or a peptide. Okay, Rehab. And what about the peptide hormone, Rehab? Mariam. Don't write this. Like write this in boards. Yes. But you know more than that, right? So I already expect that you know a steroid hormone is a steroidal hormone and a peptide hormone is a protein hormone. So that is what the word says. So these kind of points write in boards because they are obvious points. I'm asking one major difference between a steroid hormone and a peptide hormone. So Rehab has answered about the steroid hormone. Are you still writing about the peptide hormone? Okay, Mariam. Okay, Rehab, should I move forward? Okay. So you have to just say it done, okay, when you're done answering, because then I'll move. Which gland, which endocrine gland secretes cortisol and the function of cortisol? The gland and the function of cortisol. Just write that. Which gland secretes cortisol and what does cortisol do? Okay. And what does cortisol do? Okay. So when Rehab will answer, I'll move to the next question. Okay. Rehab, what is corpus lutein and what hormones does it secrete? Corpus luteum, and which hormones does it secrete? So just in one line, what is corpus luteum, and in one word, which major hormone it secretes? Okay. And the hormone, Rehab? Okay. Okay, I received everyone's answer. So I'll move forward. Rehab, what is hyperglycemia? Hyperglycemia, and which hormone leads to hyperglycemia? The deficiency of which hormone, I should ask. So the deficiency of which hormone leads to hyperglycemia, and what is it? Mhm. Okay, Rehab. Okay, I'll move to the next. So this is the last question for Rehab. Okay, Rehab, what is a glucocorticoid? What is a glucocorticoid? you have to tell me what is glucocorticoid and which hormone regulates the secretion of glucocorticoid. 2 words, just write 2 names. So in one sentence, what is glucocorticoid? And in 1 word, which hormone regulates the synthesis or secretion of glucocorticoids? Okay, Rehab. Okay, so I would like to tell you that for the last question that I asked you, it's not the deficiency of glucagon, but insulin. Okay, that leads to hyperglycemia. Okay, if there is deficiency of glucagon, then what will happen? The opposing effect. Insulin allows the glucose to go into the cell from the blood. So if that is not there, it will increase in the blood. And this was correct. Okay, fine. And Mariam, for the current answer, you have answered corticoid hormones. So glucocorticoid, it itself is a corticoid hormone, but ACTH stimulates its synthesis from the pituitary. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Rehab. You can continue to answer, and I'll go to Abhinav. Abhinav, are you there? Can you speak? Abhinav. Abhinav, am I audible to you? Yes, your mic is not working. Okay. Okay, so let's go. Like, I have to give you that choice because I gave it to everyone. Okay, Abhinav. So my first question to you is, what is acromegaly and which hormone is responsible for it? Acromegaly. So 1 line for acromegaly and the hormone. Others can type in the answers. So I can see a trend. Few people who have not answered their own questions well have answered a lot of other people's question very well. That will be counted, okay, in the final marks. So since Abhinav is typing, I'll wait for Abhinav's answer and then I'll move forward when he will answer. Okay, Abhinav. Abhinav, you can just write, you don't write growth stimulating hormone, because growth stimulating hormone is only growth hormone releasing hormone, which is from hypothalamus. So it actually happens because of abnormality, mostly in the growth hormone itself. Okay, so growth hormone stimulating hormone is secondary here, but I'll take it as an answer. Okay, correct. Okay, what is the importance of secondary messenger in a hormone action or a hormone mechanism of action? what is a secondary messenger and what is its importance, why it is important. So you need not to give me examples of hormones that make secondary messengers, but just tell me why is secondary messenger important. Okay, so I have received Abhinav's answer. Abhinav, so your answer is not very clear, so you can just write it in one sentence. I think there could be a more clear answer. So if you would like to answer that, since others answer are also coming in, so I'll just give you that window. So I just specifically ask, why is secondary messengers important? So okay, which hormone, Abhinav, you think is important during inflammatory response of the body? Inflammation, whenever there is inflammation in the body, which hormone is like playing an important role? So you can just name the hormone. Okay, and why do you think is the next question? Why this hormone, which you have answered, you think that this is playing an important role during inflammation? Are you answering, Abhinav? Okay. Okay, fine. So okay, out of T3 and T4, which are two thyroid hormones, which is the active form in the body? Which is active, T3 or T4? Okay. And why do you think is T3 more active? Why not T4? If I ask why T4 is not considered more active? Okay. So got Abhinav's question answer. Okay, Mariam. Which is more abundant in the body, T3 or T4? Like in terms of quantity, which is more, which is secreted or produced more by the gland, T3 or T4? Abhinav. Okay. Abhinav, your last question is, can you name the hormone and its function which is secreted from heart? A hormone which is secreted by heart and its function. Yes. Rehab, please write the full name. So always write the full name of the hormones in the exam, not the acronym. Okay, I have received Abhinav's answer. Abhinav, this is your final answer? Okay, Rehab. So since Abhinav answered, Abhinav, it regulates the blood pressure, not the blood volume. You know, blood volume cannot be regulated without adding like more blood to it or more plasma to it. So you regulate the pressure by adding like more water or taking out water from it. Okay, so blood pressure is the right term because blood volume, it also includes formation of blood. Okay, okay, cool, but I'll take it as an answer. Okay, I think everyone is done, right? Yes, everyone's done. Reba, let me just cross check. Reba, Mariam, Omar, Aisha, Rehab, Abhinav. Okay, perfect. So thank you everyone. And I felt that all of you have good basic understanding, but you need to work a little more on the details. Okay, so I'll be giving out the marks and also like comments, my comments on each one of your personalized performance. Is it fine? Okay,
Yes.
cool. Okay, so that's it. So we have to start for the class. So let me give you a quick 3 or 4 minutes break. So go drink water if you need and then come back within 4 minutes. Is it fine for everyone? For the class?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. See you in few minutes. Hello everyone. Who all are back?
Yes, sir.
Mariam. Anything you want to ask me before I...
Yeah.
Yes, Aisha. Oh, you're back. Oh, welcome. Welcome
Sir,
back.
I missed the last 2 classes. Can you tell me how much we did so I can leave pages?
Okay. So I will be sharing. Let me share the page. Okay. Can you all see? Can you all see the
Yes,
page
sir.
I'm sharing? So you were not there in the last class as well, and in the last to last class.
Yes, sir.
Which is the last thing you attended? Parts of brain, I think.
Yes, sir. Functions of cerebrum.
Cerebrum, right? So after the functions of cerebrum, we did the functions of the diencephalon, which is thalamus and hypothalamus. And so basically the thalamus acts as a bridge, and it has regulatory functions from the lower parts of the brain to higher parts of the brain. Hypothalamus, it links endocrine and the ANS, and has also regulatory functions in regulating body temperature, thirst, urination, hunger. Pituitary gland, that you all know, this we covered in endocrine system as well. Emotional and behavioral patterns and sleep wake rhythm. Then we did cerebellum's function, then the hindbrain, pons, medulla, and cerebellum. Yes, all three we did. Then we started with we completed midbrain and some important stuff about the reflex action. And we still have to start with action potential generation, so we have not done that. I will do today. And before action potential, I discussed about the limbic system, which is also called the reward or the punishment circuit, or the emotional brain. The limbic system is called emotional brain. And we went on to do PNS, the peripheral nervous system, because all of the things that we have studied till now is a part of central nervous system. And in PNS, I told you that there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves and 12 pairs of cranial nerves for human. Okay, so this is for human. And out of which, in your pre-medical entrances, these 12 pair of cranial nerves are very important. And we discussed each cranial nerve. So we discussed the name, the number associated with that cranial nerve. So they are numbered in a Roman numeral, and the name, origin, nature, and function of the cranial nerves. So we did for all the 12. So I think this much you have to leave. Okay, Mariam?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, anyone, before I start with today's class? If you have any questions regarding the Viva also, you can ask. If anyone has any doubts with their answers or something. Should I begin? Okay, so let's start with today's class. So in today's class, we will be talking mostly. Yes, Aisha is asking permission to readmit. I think she left. Okay. So in today's class, we will be studying majorly the nerve impulse. And when I say nerve impulse, what do I mean? So we have studied about neuron. What is a neuron? How the cell looks like? What are the properties of the cell? And we know that I have already told you that the cells of the nervous system actually generate electricity, right? Little bit of flow of charges is there. That's called the action potential, right? You must have studied these words: potential, electricity, charge in physics, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what do we mean by current? What is a current? So there are certain words.
Electrons and flow.
Yes, Mariam. What? Flow of?
Electrons.
Just the electrons? Or is it the flow of charges?
Yes, sir. Charges.
if positive charges are flowing, that's also will produce a current, right? Right or not?
Yes, sir.
So there is something called current. What is conduction? What is conductor in physics?
Can conduct
What? Conduct what?
heat.
Electricity. Yes, like heat, any form of energy. Here we're talking about electricity and charges, so which can conduct electricity, right? And conduction is the process through which that charge or that impulse in this case, or action potential in a neuron, moves from one point of origin to other, right? And this is how these cells can send signals. So endocrine, the chapter endocrine was all about understanding signaling through chemicals, right? That's why the chapter is named in your NCERT as chemical control and integration, right? And this chapter is, I think, named as neural control and coordination, correct? So through chemical control, we can send signals. So basically what we have to do is we have to send signals to different parts of the body. That's all we are doing. Now we can either do it through chemicals, and through the blood, because we have a highway in our body, which is the blood circulatory system. And you can send anything through that to different parts of the body. So that happens through chemicals. Now, some of these conductions or some of these signals have to be very, very specific to certain regions of the central nervous system or the peripheral nervous system. So for that, we rely on neurons, okay, the cells. Now, so what we are going to study today is, first thing, how these signals generate. So the generation of impulses. This word impulse also is from physics. Have you studied impulse? What does impulse means? And then conduction of impulse. Anyone can tell me what do you mean by impulse? Okay, impulse is like in burst of energy. Someone I think has answered in the chat. A small flow of charge. Yes, a sudden, Abhinav. Instead of saying small or big in quantity, it's like sudden in packets or in bursts. So it's not like a steady flow throughout. It's not like a river flowing. It's like our pulse, right? When you feel your pulse, it's like something just flew, like something went past and then again went past. So it's not a steady flow. It's like something comes with high intensity and then that intensity decreases. Then again it comes with high intensity and it decreases. Correct? So that is an impulse. Right, Abhinav. So what is special about neurons as cells? Anyone? What is special about neurons as cells? So first thing that is special about neurons is neurons, the cell membrane of neurons is polarized. What do I mean by polarized cell membrane? By this I mean that actually the first thing that is special about neurons and is different from other cell types of our body is that these cells are excitable. What do I mean when I say excitable? Anyone? Excitable. They can be excited. Like you give some stimulus and these cells will get excited and show some behavior. Is it clear? Have you seen or do you know about this one experiment where if you take the muscles, like the muscle cells from an organism, like the organism is dead now. So this was done in a frog's leg muscle. And if you add a pinch of salt or slight current in that muscle cell, it twitches. The muscle twitches even when it is not, like, it means even when the organism is not alive. You can make muscle twitch even in a dead body. Do you know about this? No? Okay. Yes, someone knows. Yes, Abhinav knows about it. Right, Abhinav? It would have been better if you could speak, but it's fine. So the first important thing about neurons is that they are excitable. Okay. And since they are excitable, yes, what did your brother told you? Okay, fine. So since they're, so write down first thing, neurons are excitable cells. Neurons are excitable cells, and their membranes are always in a polarized state. They're excitable cells, and their membranes, like cell membranes, are in a polarized state. What do we mean by polarized? The word polarized. I have told you about this word polarized before. Who remembers ECG? Anyone remembers ECG? People? Hyperpolarization and hypopolarization of the ventricles. No one remembers that. Okay, so go back and please revise that. Yes, the electrocardiogram. Revise the electrocardiogram and you will understand that I use this word hyperpolarization and hypopolarization when I was telling you about the PQRST curve. Okay. Okay, so just write down a few characteristic features of neurons first before I go into detail. First thing is that they are excitable cells and their membranes are in a polarized state, and the membranes of neurons contains many different kinds of channels, ion channels. So many types of ion channels are there. Now, what are these channels? And remember I told you something about protein channels when I was talking about the blood-brain barrier, just above in the same CNS chapter. Anyone remembers? You can say yes or no. I can understand why Abhinav is not speaking, but others can speak, right? Mariam, Rehab, remember channels? For the intake of glucose, there were channels, dedicated channels that will allow glucose to go into the blood, into the brain from the blood. So ion channels are the channels which open, when open or close, they allow the flow of ions from inside to outside and from outside to inside. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, why is it important for a cell like neuron to have ion channels and regulate the movement of ions? Because ions contains charge, right? And you know what is a potential difference in physics? We also call in other terms voltage, potential difference or voltage. Ohm's law, you all have studied Ohm's law. V is equal to IR. There you must have studied potential difference. So what is a potential difference? In a wire, let's talk about a wire. So we say that our neurons and all the central nervous system is our wiring, the neural wiring. So it's like a wire in our body, which actually it's like very, very similar. So that's the wiring. So we are studying about the biological wiring that we have in our body. So what is potential difference? So fundamentals will always be same. A potential, yes.
Between 2 points.
Potential in terms of what?
Electrical?
Yes, positive and negative charge,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
So if there is if the potential difference between one end and the other end of the wire is more, the flow of current will be directly proportional to the potential difference, right? V is directly proportional to I, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here also these ion channels which are present in the neuron helps in maintaining a gradient, ion gradient between the intracellular space, which is the cytoplasm, and the extracellular space, which is outside of the neuron cell. Is it clear? So let's start. So these ion channels, just write down a property of it, that they are selectively permeable, and that's very important property. So this selective permeability allows, which the channel which will be permeable to sodium will be called sodium channel, because when it opens, it allows only sodium to go through it and not other ions. So this is very important because this is helping and making the neuron conductive. Now let's start from the beginning. So you understood the neuron in general. So the premise is that we have to generate an impulse and then we have to conduct it. So it can generate at a point and then it has to move throughout the axon. We already know that these cells can be excited and they are already in a polarized state, which means some kind of difference in potential or difference in the ion gradient is already there. And also on the top of it, their membrane has a lot of ion channels which are selectively permeable. So the whole background, the foundation is clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Good. So now let's start with a neuron, and from the beginning, when it's not conducting anything. So when a neuron is not conducting anything, what it is doing, it's called a resting neuron, or it's just at a resting state. And what will be the potential of the membrane called at that time? Resting membrane potential, because it's resting. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So write down first point, when the neuron is not conducting anything or resting neuron. So when it is not conducting anything, the membrane, or whenever I say the membrane from now onwards, so remember when I drew the diagram of a neuron, so I told you that the schematic is like this. There is a cell body, there are dendrites, right? And there is an axon, correct?
Yes, sir.
Which leads to axonal endings, correct? So from now onwards, what membrane I'll be talking about is the membrane of this axonal membrane. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Because this is where this potential or this impulse travels. So write down, in a resting neuron, the axonal membrane is more permeable to potassium ions, K plus, more permeable to potassium ions, and impermeable means not allowing, impermeable to sodium ions. So when it is resting, it's permeable to potassium ions and it's impermeable to sodium ions. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now tell me, what does it means functionally? What does it means? These are just two statements, and these are the statements which you will write in your answer. But as I always say, if you understand the story behind it, you don't have to remember it anymore. So when I say that it is permeable to potassium and impermeable to sodium, what does it means? What does it means? What does the word permeable means?
Allows potassium ions.
To do what?
Transport through the channels.
Permeable means it allows the movement of it, correct? Yes, Abhinav, perfect. To enter. Something is permeable to something, which means it allows its movement inside, correct? So if it allows the permeability of potassium but not of sodium, so which ion do you think is predominantly there inside the cell before anything starts? So just to begin with the resting neuron, inside which ion will be more or in more concentration? So if it's permeable to potassium, K plus, obviously K plus can easily enter inside the axon. Okay, from now onwards, I'm also telling you one thing. So we use the word cytoplasm, right? And in a cell like neuron, there is one thing which is slightly little confusing because it has a cell body which is cyton, and the plasm inside it is called cytoplasm, just like any other cell. But other cells do not have a very long extension called axon. That is a property of a neuronal cell. And axons also have their own liquid, like the fluid inside it, right? And just to differentiate it from the cytoplasm of the axon, we call it exoplasm. Is it clear? So when I use the word exoplasm, do you know it is the cytoplasm of the axon, basically. Is it clear? Is it clear or not? Say yes or no. Exoplasm is the fluid present inside the axon. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Now, so write down. Okay. Before that, also, so it's permeable to potassium ions, impermeable to sodium ions. Along with that, it is also impermeable. Write down. It is impermeable to any negatively charged protein. Negatively charged protein which is already present in the exoplasm. So this is the catch of the story. Okay. So it's impermeable to negatively charged protein which is there in the exoplasm. So proteins are always present inside the cell, right? Because it's a cell and it has a cytoplasm, which is here we are calling it exoplasm. So there must be proteins in it. So all these negatively charged proteins now cannot go out. They are trapped inside. And it can only allow potassium to come in, but not sodium to come in. So to balance the negatively charged protein inside, only potassium can come in, correct? And it will come in because it has to come in, because it has to maintain, it has to like every reaction moves towards the equilibrium. You must have heard it in chemistry, right? Types of chemical reactions when you studied. Anion attracts a cation. All these things are clear to you or not? Say yes or no. Okay, perfect. So there are two things. First condition is for ions, it's permeable to potassium, impermeable to sodium. And for proteins, it's impermeable to all the negatively charged proteins, which is already in the exoplasm. So what does neuron wants to do biologically is, it will first create a demand for a positive ion to come inside. And that demand will be created by trapping the negatively charged proteins already, which are there inside the exoplasm. After creating this demand, like this difference in the concentration gradient, it will allow only potassium to come in, being permeable. So lots of potassium will keep coming in, but no sodium will come in. So that's where the first question which comes in NEET comes here, that under normal physiological conditions, when we are not exciting the neuron, or which is the most abundant intracellular ion? Which is that? Potassium. K plus is the most abundant intraneuronal or intracellular ion in a neuron. Is it clear? Okay, so write down. The exoplasm, and this is all about the resting neuron. The exoplasm, write down a point here. The exoplasm contains high concentration of K plus. So because of these two conditions set, so these are the two conditions, these are the rules of the games, and by this rule, if you play the game, in the exoplasm, the concentration of K plus will be higher, and the concentration of sodium or Na plus in the exoplasm will be low. So let me make a axon. So here is an axon, okay, a very zoomed in version of an axon. So what will be high inside the exoplasm? So this is your exoplasm in a resting state, and I will call this as extracellular fluid. Okay, so there will be fluid outside the axon, right? It's not in air. These neurons are present in our body, and our body has lots of fluid all around. Especially in the brain, we have cerebrospinal fluid or the cerebral fluid, CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. So this is that fluid which is outside the axon, and this is inside exoplasm. So inside the exoplasm, the K plus will be very high and Na plus will be very low. Also, what will be very high? The negatively charged proteins. So it will also have high negative proteins. Do you understand this whole game before the rule before the game starts? So this is how it looks. What will happen on the outside? Because lots of potassium is inside, so what will be more outside? Sodium will be very high outside because it is not allowed to come inside. Am I correct? And potassium will be low outside. And since negative proteins are trapped inside, of course, they will also be low outside. Is it clear? So can you see that there is already a gradient formed here? Just because of the rules, the permeability rule, there is already a gradient, right? So write down, the fluid outside contains low concentration of potassium ions and high concentration of sodium. Okay. Now, which leads to, complete the sentence, which leads to establishment of a gradient. So from here to here, from inside to outside, there is a gradient. Okay, establishment of a gradient, ion gradient, ion concentration gradient. So sorry. Now, remember I told you that to make a gradient or to transport anything against, to make a gradient, we have to transport things against its concentration, right? So suppose you are allowing, so it is permeable to potassium. But the question here, or the thing that you have to understand is, suppose there are 100, total 100 potassium ions, okay? And if I allow the potassium ions to move freely, like they are permeable, now it will go and stop at a point, right? this potassium flow inside will stop after a point. So when there will be 50 potassium outside and 50 potassium inside, it should stop, right? Right or wrong? By the law of diffusion, or by the law of like passive movement or movement through concentration gradient, when it comes to 50-50, it's at equilibrium, it should stop. But here I am telling you that it does not stop at equilibrium, it goes on to form a gradient where the inside has more potassium and outside has less potassium, which means something is constantly bringing in potassium even after when it is equal. So it will be something like 80 inside and 20 outside, right? So this is how it is maintained. Now to do this, you need energy, correct? To move anything against its gradient, you have to move energy. You have to utilize energy, correct? Same is for sodium. So you are not allowing sodium to come inside, so of course it's there outside. But write down this whole gradient of sodium and potassium. Write down the gradient of sodium and potassium is achieved by active transport. So there has to be an active transport. Passive transport cannot play a role any longer. What did I say? This gradient of sodium potassium is achieved by active transport of the ions through or by something called as a sodium potassium pump. Through sodium potassium pump. Now the word pump itself tells us what is a pump. When do we use a pump? In normal life, have you seen a pump? Anyone has used a pump? So if there is a water, like if a lot of water gets deposited somewhere, okay, like in a lowland area, so we throw water out, right, through a pump, correct? So we require energy to throw it to push a liquid. Yes, correct. So to push a liquid, we use pump. Similarly, here the pump is being used, the word pump is being used for ions. So it is throwing ions against the gradient. Even if it is more inside the cell, it will keep on throwing more and more potassium inside the neuron to increase the concentration inside the neuron of the potassium. Okay, so this gradient is achieved by this active transport of ions through sodium potassium pump. So sodium potassium pumps becomes the most important pump to make the membrane polarized even before anything happens. So this is what do we mean by polarized membrane. Is it clear? Now, how does this sodium potassium pump works? So so there's an active transport, and since I told you that more sodium ions are outside and less sodium ions are inside, so write down this sodium potassium pump. This is a transaction value, sorry, and this is a question that comes in entrances. So this sodium potassium pump transports 3 sodium ions out, okay, for every 2 potassium ions in. This is the transaction value. Is it clear? Is it clear? So for every 2 potassium ions that you have to get inside, you have to transport out 3 sodium ions. This is the transaction value. 3 sodium ions out of the cell for 2 potassium ions inside the cell. This is the bargaining. And remember this because this helps in the unequal distribution and the formation of gradient. And this also makes sense. This also perfectly tells us, because if more sodium ion goes out and it's not permeable for it to come back in, then there'll be more sodium outside, less sodium inside. And even if 2 potassium ions keep on coming inside, then after some time the potassium ions will be more inside and less outside. Make sense, everyone? Any doubt? Please ask. At least someone should speak. Okay, I'm fine with background noise, Mariam. It's fine. Like it's actually good to hear voice when you are teaching. So someone keep telling me yes, understand. It makes me feel good also as a teacher. But this is clear, right? This concept is clear. So this transaction value, so you don't have to remember it any longer. So normally people mug it up. So the questions will come in entrance will be like per sodium ion or per potassium ion, how many sodium ions or potassium ions, vice versa, is sent out or in through the sodium potassium pump. So if you remember 3 sodium 2 potassium, instead you just know the story that before anything begins, there is more potassium inside, which also prepares you for first question, that potassium is the most abundant intracellular ion and sodium is more abundant outside. So there is a gradient. Okay, now that gradient, to make that gradient, you have to pump more of sodium out than you take potassium in. Okay, because both are positive charged. So if there was a negative and a positive charge connotation, then you could have understood it better. But since both are positive charge, but still we can make a gradient by sending more positive charge out than bringing the positive charge in. Is it clear? And negatively charged proteins are already trapped inside. So this whole premise is set. Sodium potassium pumps transaction value makes sense with our premise. So no mugging up now, it's just concepts. Is it clear, everyone? Should I move forward? Yes, okay. So let's now talk about the overall polarity of the membrane. So overall, because of this sodium potassium pump, if I ask you that so this is the membrane, okay? I told you every membrane is a lipid bilayer. So this is a membrane. So just outside the membrane of the axon, what will be the charge, the overall charge, the net charge I'm talking about? So the net charge outside will be positive or negative? Net charge. Please speak, people. The net charge outside will be positive, okay? Because more sodium is out. And the net charge inside will be negative. Now don't get confused that, see, there are potassium ions also inside, and it is the most abundant intracellular ion. Then why do we have net charge negative? Because overall it is less than the number of sodium because of this transaction value, and it's along with negative proteins already trapped inside. So overall, if you see that if outside the positive charge cumulative is plus 100, then the inside will be plus 80. So net is it's minus negative 20. Do you understand this? How this works basically? Clear, everyone? So you have to, yes, Reba. So you have to understand this first, this establishment, how it happened, because it's confusing sometimes because both the ions involved are positively charged ions. So you have to remember, first thing is there is negative proteins. Second thing is due to this transactional value, the net charge. So this is always this is always the net charge. So the net charge or the resultant charge outside is positive and inside is negative. So the inner membrane of a neuron stays negatively charged, whereas the outer membrane, the outer side of the membrane, is positively charged with respect to the ion gradient. Okay. Now this is where the story begins. Now you have to excite a neuron. Is it clear? So first write about this. Write down one point. The the outer surface of the axonal membrane, the outer surface of the axonal membrane has a net positive charge, whereas the inner surface has a net negative charge. Inner surface has a net negative charge. And this is called polarization of the membrane. So this is the polarized state. Okay. So now you understand what is polarization? Everyone? Yes. So this is, yes. So this is polarization. Now write down this potential difference in the electrical charge. This potential difference, this here. This potential difference in the electrical charge across the resting axonal membrane. When it is resting, axonal means axon, resting axonal membrane. Someone has a question about it. Yes, Omar, you can if you wish to, but please also you have to make sure that you understand these topics. Okay, get your hands on to these videos, the recording. Okay.
So what time will the class end?
The class is supposed to be of 2 hours plus 1 hour of viva. So there's still an hour for this class to go.
Okay,
Do you have to, okay? Do you have any issues?
no, sir.
Okay, fine. So because I have to complete this on time. So this viva was supposed to be last Sunday, which got postponed to this Saturday because no one of you was informed and ready. Okay, so what did I say? What did I just say? I forgot. The flow broke. What I was dictating? Can someone repeat? Something.
Sorry, the potential difference in the electrical charges across the resting axonal membrane.
Yes. The potential difference across the resting axonal membrane is called the resting potential. Okay. So neurons, every cell almost like have a resting membrane potential. So if the question comes, what is a resting membrane potential in boards, you write down that the potential difference in the electric charges across the membrane when that cell is resting, when the membrane is resting and not excited, is called a resting membrane potential. Now this resting membrane potential is set and it's already there for neurons because of this sodium potassium pump. Now write down so what happens when any stimulus comes? So remember I told you about the sensory neurons present in our fingertips and everywhere from where we can sense, in the eyes, ear, nose, olfactory sensory neurons. Let me go up.
Yes, sir.
Yes, here. So the olfactory is a kind of sensory nerve, optic is also sensory, and auditory is also sensory, right? So hearing, smelling, seeing, touching, all these are sensory neurons, correct?
Yes.
So these sensory neurons, so basically the neurons get a stimulus. So whenever this stimulus comes, what changes occurs in this resting membrane potential that it gets excited? So write down when a stimulus is applied, or when a stimulus is encountered by the resting membrane potential. So this, from this part onward, just write it in the, so I'm dictating you. So from here also, from this part onward, we are generating a potential now. Everything was simple, everything was resting, nothing was happening, you were sleeping. Suddenly you woke up and you got a stimulus, you know, you felt cold or something happened. So we have to now generating an impulse, we are generating it. So whenever a stimulus comes, and I will draw it like this. Again, I'm drawing an axonal membrane, let's say. And we know that everywhere outside it's positively charged, right? And inside it's negatively charged. Now let me use some other color. And let's say at this point, there is a stimulus in the axonal membrane. So whenever there is a stimulus sensed by these sensory neurons or these neurons in general, so what happens is the neuronal membrane, which was impermeable to sodium, now becomes freely permeable to sodium. What does this mean?
It allows the entry of any ions.
It allows the entry of sodium. A lot of sodium will just start coming inside the neuron. And why will that sudden movement occur? Because already with the use of this pump, we had established a gradient. It's like pulling a catapult. Okay, you have already pulled. You understand what is a catapult? You know, a V-like structure, and we pull it.
Yes.
So you already have pulled a bow and an arrow is a better example. So the bow is pulled already with an arrow on it. So now you just have to allow the free movement. So the moment you leave it, what will happen? It will move like in the direction of the gradient, right? From higher concentration to lower concentration, obviously. Now, where is the higher concentration of sodium? Already outside the cell in the extracellular fluid. Lots and lots of sodium is there. And inside the cell it is less. So the moment you make the permeable free for sodium, what will happen? The sodium will rush inside the neuron. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so write down when a stimulus is applied on a polarized membrane here, on a polarized membrane, the membrane becomes freely permeable to sodium, Na+. The membrane becomes freely permeable to Na+. And as a result, a rapid influx of sodium happens. And it will happen from both the sides, not from the top only, because we are talking about inside and outside. So a rapid influx of sodium happens. So what will happen to this region from, like, let's say this local region? So from here, the sodium is coming in. So the region adjacent to it will stay the same, right? But locally at this region, to begin with, a lot of sodium will come in. So the inner membrane will now become, net charge will become positive. So there is called an inversion of potential. So all normally outside was positive, inside was negative, and now it get reversed. Is it clear? Inside becomes positive. So what effect it will have is what leads to the conduction. So you have to understand the concept. So write down the rapid influx of sodium. You have written rapid influx of sodium.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
In next point, write down this leads to reversal of potential or reversal of polarity. the polarity has changed. The reversal of polarity locally. So by locally, I mean, so there'll be hundreds of channels. They are very small channels. Let's say there was a stimulus at channel number 53, 54, 55. So from these three channels, lots of sodium will come in. But channel number 56, 57, 58 are still not open. So locally in the region around these channels inside will become positively, and there will be reversal of polarity. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So by reversal of polarity, I mean the outer surface becomes net negative charge. So here in this region, which I'm marking by red, the outer surface becomes negative and the inner surface becomes positive. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So write down next point. So this state is called a depolarized state. So it was already polarized. So this state is called polarized state, which was resting state. Now you reversed it and made it depolarized. Is it clear, everyone? Make sense?
Sir.
Yes. And this depolarization, this local reversal of polarity is called a action potential. What it is called? So this thing here that we managed to do with a stimulus is called an action potential. So an action potential got generated locally. You touched a hot plate. So the sensory neurons got a signal, and suddenly you got touched here. So the neurons locally and the channels locally, not anywhere in the hand, got depolarized. Is it clear? And the action potential got generated. Is it clear?
Yes,
And now
sir.
it has to just move and get conducted throughout, like throughout the axon, and reach either the spinal cord or the brain. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now write down. This action potential is also called as a nerve impulse. It's the same kind of thing, but two words. An action potential or a nerve impulse got generated. Okay, now write down. So what will happen? So write down the adjacent at adjacent site, which is this site here, which is not perturbed till now. It is normal till now, but the adjacent side after the generation of action potential, there will be a current flow. There will be a current flow. And what is the direction of flow of current? Can anyone tell me from physics? That's why I asked you to revise all these things. So what is the direction of current flow? Come on, physics, science is all exclusive. What is the direction of flow of current with respect to a proton or an electron?
From positive to negative.
From positive to negative is the direction of flow of current, right? Remember, you must be making this in the wire that if there is a positive here, negative, so this is the direction of flow of current. But what is the direction of flow of electrons? The opposite. So the direction of flow of electron is opposite to the direction of flow of current. Remember?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So here also the same thing is happening because this is our wire. If positive, so when everything inside was negative, everything outside was positive, and there was a boundary of the cell membrane, everything was okay, resting. But some stimulus locally reversed the potential, because of which there is a positive here and there is a negative here. So what will happen? From positive to negative, there will be a move direction of flow of current, correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And on the outside it will be opposite, correct? Correct or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this conduction, so wherever this current will flow, it will make more channels open, and because of which this inversal, so if there are multiple stimulus, this reversal of polarity will happen, and because of which there is now a problem. The inner membrane is not uniformly negative, but it's positive in packets and negative in packets, because of which the current can now flow. Does it make sense to you? The current could not flow across the membrane because membrane channels were protecting it. The flow of, what is current? Flow of ions is called current. And now these ions are free to flow because inside it's a free highway, correct? See, when they were segregated across the membranes, to flow, they needed to go through the channel, correct? Make sense, everyone? Say yes or no. But now, yes, perfect. But now to move, they do not require any channel because they are already inside, and inside they can move across the length of the axon. So this leads to the flow of current. So write down, how should I dictate it? You understood the concept, okay? So let's try to put it in words. Write down, a current flows, or write down, as a result of reversal of potential, as a result of reversal of potential, a current flows on the inner surface on the inner surface. Let's mark these sites. So you have to make this diagram and mark this site as A and this site as B for the sake of simplicity. So the direction of current will be from A to B, from positive to negative. So the current will flow from positive bracket mein A to the negative bracket mein B region or site. Whereas on the outer side, the current will flow in an opposite direction. On the outer side, the current will flow in an opposite direction from B to A. Is it clear? Because this site is A and this site is B of the axon in the neuron, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. And why is this flow happening? To just complete the circuit. So this is the nature of charges. Whenever they feel there is a potential difference, they always start running to complete the circuit. Is it clear? Electromotive force, you all must have studied about it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So because of that force, they'll just move. It's in their nature to just flow. Now write down, because of this flow of current, so what will happen? If this positive will start moving towards B, then ultimately when it will reach this region, all these negatives will become positive, correct? You understand? The positive charge is flowing, so it shifted from point A and went into point B, and when they go to point B, ultimately point B becomes positive, correct? Is it correct or not? See, it's just the displacement of charges happening. Even if you do not open other channels, this is possible. Just try to understand here more clearly. It was all positive. Okay, now I'll be using eraser to also erase it and explain it to you. After some time, what happened? There was a local, let me use this. there was a local stimulus at this point. Is it clear? Because of this local stimulus, now I am erasing. Lot of sodium ion moved in, and the outside became negative and the inside became positive. Clear? And this site is called site A. Site B is still unperturbed. Now, because this happened because of a stimulus leading to opening of the channel and rushing in a lot of sodium, now there is a potential difference, not across the membranes, but within the same, like in the same side of the membrane, there is a potential difference where the ions are free to move, free to flow, and ions will flow. Wherever there is a potential difference, they will flow to just complete the circuit. And because of which, these ions will start flowing towards this region, the B region. And as they will reach B, this will start becoming positive, and this region before that will again become negative. And similar kind of movement is happening here also. This positive will move here, and I will use red now. These regions will become positive. Is it clear? So the positive charge keeps on shifting on the outer side towards this direction and in the inner side towards this direction. Making sense to you now?
Yes, sir.
So this flow of charge will keep on going till the end, and that is called conduction of a nerve impulse. That is called conduction of a current. Right? So write down. The impulse or the action potential generated at site A. Write it down and make this diagram. The action potential generated at site A reaches site B, which leads to this will become negative, which leads to a reversal of polarity there as well. Make sense, everyone? Say yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Which leads to reversal of polarity there as well. And this sequence is repeated, and this sequence of flow of positive, so it's like jumping. Do you understand? If I make this in a flow, it's like this, right? It's jumping, correct? From one side to other, then other, then other, then other. And this sequence is repeated along the complete length of the axon. Along the complete length of the axon. Finally, write down, and hence an impulse is conducted. And hence an impulse is conducted. So it's a very local phenomena. Do you understand? Any part of the axon, if experiences a stimulus, suppose I prick, so I take an axon, this is your finger, and I prick it with a pin. So that local region got stimulus, and because of that stimulus, there is a opening of the sodium channels, and it becomes freely permeable to sodium. All the sodium rushes in, reverses the cell polarity, because of which now there is a potential gradient formed on the same side of the membrane, which is now free to flow, and that flow of ions is called current. So current will keep flowing from the point of origin to the end of the axon, because it will keep shifting. Is it clear? So
Yes.
this is the concept of generation of an impulse and propagation of an impulse. Any doubts in this? Please ask.
No, sir.
Now, you also appreciate here that this is a very, very brilliant way to send signal, right? Neurons are brilliantly evolved cells and great concept they have utilized, but they also have to come back, correct? Because you might be able, it's not like you get a stimulus and there is a change, reversal of polarity, and that stays like that. If that stays like this, suppose you got a stimulus, polarity reversal happened, propagation happened, but at the original site, you have to restore it back because you can get another stimulus anytime, correct? You have to save yourself from all the stimulus. Suppose someone pricked you with a pin and you responded to it. But if someone pricks you with the same pin at the same location, again you have to respond to it, correct? Makes sense, right?
Yes, sir.
So coming back to the original state is also very important, which is like, again, there was polarization. There was a polarization. Then you depolarized. And when you depolarized, you fired something, but you again have to repolarize, correct? This has to happen, just like it was there in case of ECG. Remember ECG?
Yes, sir.
So you have to, the concept, the fundamental concept between both the two is same, but just the rhythm is different. There it was upon depolarization and repolarization, it was basically contracting and relaxing of the ventricles. Here it's sending of impulses, firing. So we also call it firing of action potential because it's like firing. It's like a gun. You fire a bullet, and when you fire a bullet, there is a recoil in the gun. Again, another bullet comes, you can fire again, correct? That's like firing. You can do many firings. Similarly, action potential is fired. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
So now write down the next point, next section. This stimulus induced. So I'm talking about this part here. So this part is called a stimulus induced rise in permeability. For sodium. Is it clear, everyone? So whenever there was a stimulus, there is a rise in permeability and the sodium can move inside. But this should be very short-lived, correct? And it has to stop very quickly. So write down this, what is it? This signal-induced rise in permeability for sodium is extremely short. Is extremely short. And within a fraction of a second, so what, within a fraction of a second, this resting potential is restored. This resting potential is restored. Now, how can you restore the resting potential? Tell me. You made that sodium to rush in, correct? And when that sodium rushed in, after that rushing in, that positive charge moved to the adjacent side. So what is the way now to restore the membrane potential? Any idea? Any logic? See this and tell me. Sorry. See this and tell me. There was.
It will increase the permeability of K+ ions.
Exactly. Perfect, Maria. So the only way now is you already have lots of positive reserve there. So you maintained sodium more outside because you knew that when there will be a stimulus, I can make that sodium rush in. And when it will rush in, it will make the local region positive. So, and then I will make that sodium or the positive charge go along the length of the axon. So that is constantly displacing and sending the signal out. But what is still there as a reserve inside the cytoplasm or the exoplasm? Potassium, and that is also a positively charged ion, right? So if you brought in sodium, you have to send out potassium. And if you send out enough potassium, you can again restore this charge. All you have to do is negative proteins are already inside. A lot of positive things came in and they started displacing towards the side. So the already kept positive thing, the other positive thing, which was potassium, you send it out. And if you send it out enough, then you will restore the potential. So write down. Potassium ions rapidly moves out and restores the membrane potential, resting membrane potential, and restores the resting membrane potential at the site of excitation by the stimulus, because that is the only site you have to restore, because that was the only site that got disturbed. Is it clear? Everything else is just displacement, so it will just come back. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So it's like passing the ball kind of thing. So there is a long line of a human chain. Every chain, let's suppose it is a channel, ion channel, and somewhere someone from outside of that line threw a ball. So let's say all 6 of you along with me were in a chain. So first was Reba, Rehab, Mariam, and Omar, Aisha, Abhinav, and me. And someone just threw a ball to Rehab, who's second in the line. So from that second point onwards, there will be a passing of the ball in one direction, right? But it's just the ball that is being passed. So it's displacing constantly. But Rehab at that second point, who got perturbed, like catching the ball, and that perturbation happened with Rehab. So Rehab has to be restored back in that same position. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
So only the local region where this reversal of polarity happened needs to be restored back, and you can do that by sending out potassium ions, okay, to restore the resting membrane potential back at the site of excitation by the stimulus. And next point, last point, the nerve or the neuron, the nerve fiber, use the word nerve fiber or neuron. So the nerve fiber or neuron is once again ready to respond to stimulus. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So no doubt in that whole generating of impulse and propagating of impulse thing.
No, sir.
Okay, so I give you 2 minutes. Just go through everything you have written, see if there is no missing link, and you can explain and understand this, because this thing often comes in board. It's a very hot topic. They will just ask you, explain how an action potential is generated and propagated. So you have to use these diagrams. So just go through your notes once and everything and ask me if you don't understand, because if you don't understand this, you will not be able to understand synapses when I will teaching. So from here onwards, I will go to generation, propagation. Now we have to do transmission. Okay. So this is the generation part. This is the propagation part. Now I'll come to what happens when it reaches the end, because there is an end to every axon, right? It ends and then a new neuron makes a connection. So that is called transmission from one axon to one neuron to another. So go through it. I'll give you 2 minutes of silence. Let me know when you're done. keep the water bottle. I hope there's nothing to mug up now. It's very, very logical, and that's why I like nervous system a lot. How many of you like peanuts? Anyone likes peanuts? It's very good for health during the winters and for your brain also. Someone wrote in the chat, I like, sir. Nice. Peanuts are good. I asked my grandmother to roast a lot of peanuts and keep it in this big box, this jar. So you can see I finished this much. So when I study, late night studies, I eat peanut.
I don't like to eat peanuts.
You don't like peanuts?
No.
Okay. A lot of people actually, peanut allergy is a very like it's rare, but among the rare ones, it's most common. You understand what I mean?
So actually, like I don't know, I will feel like throw up when I will see peanuts, or if that smell will roam around me.
Okay. So you can roast it with some salt, not the normal salt.
And all. My mother
A
used
table
to do
salt.
it, but yet I
Yeah.
won't eat it.
Rehab
don't
like
like
peanuts
it.
only with Snickers. Nice, Rehab. See, this is called preference sorted. So I will have peanuts, but only under certain circumstances. So I am a neuron which will only respond to a olfactory cue. That's all. Okay, everyone clear? Should we move forward?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So now, because after you have understood, what happens to my pen? Yes. So now when you have understood the generation and propagation part of it, now comes the transmission part of it. Now how we transmit? Transmission, yes. Nerve impulse. So now it's obvious and clear that wherever it generates in that axon, it will move towards the axonal ending, correct? And it will keep moving towards the end. And after reaching the end, it will reach the synaptic knob, the axonal ending. Remember the diagram above?
Yes, sir.
Just okay, I'll not go that up. So just go to the diagram of your axon and see that towards the end there is a knob-like structure, correct? Where I told you something like this happens. So the axon comes and ends in a knob-like structure, and then there is a next neurons dendrite which interacts with it, correct?
Yes, sir.
So this is called post-synaptic neuron. Make sense? Because this is synapse, space, gap, and this is pre-synaptic neuron. Make sense, everyone? Pre and post?
Yes.
The
Yes.
pre-COVID era and the post-COVID era, and we are currently in the synapse of it. Dark humor, but yes, it's true. And it seems likely that there will be a third wave of it due to Omicron. So be careful, stay vigilante. It's not the right time to let your guards down. COVID is still among us and mutating. Okay. So we as a generation is witnessing a biological evolutionary fight between a virus and humans. The most primitive and the most evolved of the living systems on the planet. Viruses are so primitive that they sometimes are not even called living, right? They are at the boundary of it, but we are constantly. So our immune system is fighting COVID to get rid of it or to just adjust to it, and COVID is fighting our immune system to mutate and make more and more damage. You understand? So what people study in books, you are experiencing through this pandemic. So being biologists, be aware and remember that your guards, mask, vaccines, social distancing, all these things, frequently washing hands and everything. Okay, just a quick break. So presynaptic neuron brings in impulses. So you now understand the direction of that impulse. It's coming towards the end, and how it was propagating, that you also understood. When it will come towards the end, there will be no more channels. So if there are no more channels, there will be no more gradient. If there will be no more gradient, it cannot just continue, right? Because there will be space in between. So in this region here, something has to change so that this stimulus does not just get lost, because otherwise this whole exercise is failed, right? A signal started from your finger and stayed in your finger. It never reached your brain. So someone pricked your finger and your brain could not do anything. So it has to reach. For that, it has to cross some synapses in your central nervous system. To cross that synapses where there is no channel and no gradient now, this signal, so when it was coming from here, what was the nature of the signal? Electrical, correct?
Yes, sir.
So in a presynaptic neuron, the signal was electrical in that axon. In that axonal ending, the synaptic knob of the presynaptic neuron, this electrical signal here will convert into a chemical signal, right? And we have to do this because these chemicals then can be secreted into this empty space. I'm calling it empty from the point of view of the impulse, but there is a lot of fluid in that, right? But these chemicals will just go out into this space and then again will be captured by receptors on the dendrite of this postsynaptic neuron. So the signal which will be captured at this place here, at this receptor, will be chemical, right? So there is one conversion here. Then that chemical signal will be interpreted by the dendrites. And again, from the dendrites onwards, there will be channels similarly, and there will be potential. So this chemical, when again will start propagating, will convert into electrical, correct? So there is another conversion. So this is conversion number 1, which happens in the presynaptic neuron, and this is conversion number 2, which happens in the postsynaptic neuron. And this kind of a synapse, where whatever I have discussed and explained you is like this, it is called a chemical synapse. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Now, what are these things here in between here? What are these things? These chemicals which played that relay role in between, they are called neurotransmitters. They are chemicals which transmit signal between neurons, so they are called neurotransmitters. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Another possibility is where the presynaptic knob is in direct contact. So this is a presynaptic, same thing. Presynaptic neuron. And this is a postsynaptic neuron. Do you see any synapse there?
No.
But there is, but it's either, so it's just physically like kind of touching. So this electrical signal which comes can just cross through the membrane. Like from here, it can just go to the other membrane. So the electrical signal can just stay as it is. Is it clear? No need of neurotransmitters, no need of chemicals, no need of conversion from electrical to chemical, then from chemical to electrical. Just zip, zap, zoop. This kind of a setup is called a electrical synapse. Understood?
Yes.
Where there is no minimal or no gap, like very minimal or no gap at all between the, so there is no in the junction, there is no gap. Now I told you in the last class that this is preferred in our system also. We have almost more than 90% of our synapses everywhere in our body are chemical synapses. Few electrical synapses which are present are only restricted to our brain and not outside the brain, like not in the peripheral nervous system or in the spinal cord or other autonomic nervous system or these things. So chemical synapse is more preferred. And I also told you why. Do you remember why? Anyone remembers why?
So we can modify and change.
Exactly. So we can modulate the signal. We can do as we wish. We means the brain wish for the signal through these neuromodulators, which are neurotransmitters. So they become very important. Their role become very important in modulating the signal. Okay. In up regulating or down regulating, or like suppose there is a signal which came and then it has to get lost. I do not need to send it forward. So you can also do that by not secreting any neurotransmitters at all. And that is called blocking the synapse. In a lot of diseases, we are able to cure it because we have chemical synapses and because we can block these neurotransmitters. So we can actually block the signal from coming from one presynaptic neuron to the other postsynaptic neuron. And when we block that signal, that thing does not propagate. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Like in lot of inflammations where you have, so you when you see allergic responses, what happens in allergic response? Remember I told you it's a hyper exaggerated response. So something you like something goes into the nose and people start sneezing and they just keep on sneezing and sneezing and sneezing and sneezing, right?
Yes,
And they
sir.
don't just stop. So to stop them, you have to block that. Okay, pollen was there, but your system should not know about it. Is it clear? So neuro blockers, in a lot of epileptic seizures, we do this. A lot of brain related disorders, we do this. We block in a lot of psychedelic disorders like stress, anxiety, depression disorders. We block the channels or these receptors basically in either the in the postsynaptic neuron to not allow things to propagate. Is it clear, everyone? The best example is anesthesia. You know what is anesthesia? Anesthesia. Yes. Yeah. Who said yeah? What happens in anesthesia?
Yes, sir.
It helps us to get unconscious, right?
Yes. And also there is something called local anesthesia where you are not unconscious. So let someone is going on, let there is surgery in the knee. Now to do the surgery in the knee or in the thigh, you don't need to put the whole person to sleep sometimes. So you administer a local anesthesia. What it does is, in the local language, we call it that us region ko sunn kar diya.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
But what we are doing is we are not allowing any sensory stimulus from that region to reach the brain. That is all we are doing. The
It's
same
even
concept
used
is
for teeth, right, sir? Most
exactly.
commonly
So
it's used in.
yes, like in teeth procedures, in dental surgeries, or in ear surgery or nose surgeries, you just implant a local anesthesia so that region becomes like unresponsive to stimulus. Correct? So one of the way to do that is you block the postsynaptic receptors for pain. So you feel nothing, no sensation of touch. Sometimes you feel the sensation of touch, but not the pain. So sometimes you feel that your knee is being touched. So people are touching your knee area. but you do not feel the pain when they are cutting it. If any one of you has underwent a surgery, or anyone in your family has underwent a surgery with local anesthesia, ask them. So sometimes they will tell you that I could feel that they are touching my body, they are doing something to it, but I could not feel any pain. All the pain receptors are blocked. So no neurotransmitters are allowed to transmit that signal of pain from one neuron to other. And that we can only do because we have chemical synapses. Make sense? If all our synapses were electrical, we would not have been able to modulate any kind of stimulus coming from any sensory region. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So now you understand why chemical synapses are important. Okay, so I have to begin with the clef, but it will take more than 10 minutes. And we have 10 minutes left. So let's do one thing. If you have any doubts, let me take your doubts and let me finish the class 5-10 minutes early today. Because the next part I'll start I'll not be able to finish. But you understood till here? Synapses?
Yes, sir.
We will take from here and I will tell you about the transmission, and we will go into the details of these neurotransmitters. Some of the hormones that you have studied in endocrine. So I want to do this one thing. There's a take home assignment. Figure out what all chemical names that you have studied till now in endocrine system and in whole of the human physiology. You have studied a lot of names, right? Prolactin, SCG, LH, adrenaline, noradrenaline, epinephrine, all these, insulin, glucagon, renin, pepsin, chymotrypsin, all these names you have studied of enzymes, hormones, and other chemicals. Go and figure out if some of them or few of them or any of them is also a neurotransmitter. Okay, and it will be very interesting to know what are neurotransmitters. Just like we figure out what is a hormone, a non-nutritive trace element, what is an enzyme. An enzyme is which catalyzes any chemical reaction inside our body in biological setup. Similarly, we will figure out what is neurotransmitters, what is the chemical nature of neurotransmitters. Will you do that? Will you figure out that whatever we have studied till now, if there is any neurotransmitter in that? And once you will do it, you will like feel good and you will feel a connection between different chapters. So all about biology, the good thing is if you can connect biology, you don't have to mug it up. Okay, or cram it.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So if you have any doubts, ask me, and otherwise I'll finish the class 5 minutes early. No doubts? Okay, then see you tomorrow, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
And I'll send you marks. Okay,
Sure.
keep working out on the details.